Hey guys, one of the most common questions I get as a defense attorney when I'm defending a domestic case is how do I get rid of a domestic abuse no contact order? That's called a Danco here in Minnesota. So there's a couple of things. Number one, I always advise you need to plan that's going to be in place the length of your case. The order basically says you can't have contact with a victim or an alleged victim in a case, and usually says things like you can't go to their employer or their residence, things like that. So sometimes that's obviously a real problem if you also live at that residence or if you work together, etc. Okay, if you're raising a family, for example, these cause problems for a lot of folks. So the question is always, how do you get rid of them, or how do you modify them? How can you vacate a Danco? A couple of ways. Again, plan for the worst, but we can file motions to have a judge modify them or vacate them entirely. Okay, usually those would come a little bit later in a case. Sometimes you can get an agreement, with the prosecutor after they speak with an alleged victim in a case who also wants to have it vacated. And sometimes, sometimes there just isn't, to begin with, enough evidence in the first place, and someone comes to court and says, I don't want to have one of these. That's best case scenario, but typically and more commonly, they will get modified or vacated or dismissed entirely once a case is done, or somewhere in between if there's an agreement of the parties. So that's what that's about. If you have questions or if you have one of those kinds of cases, give me a call, 612-339-5844.